The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Do you want to get high? You better. At least 8,000 feet high if you want to live. Amber and Scott discuss the thin air of this topic after watching Elevation. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Nothing like some cool mountain air to keep your ass alive.
Indeed. So this episode, we are talking about Elevation. Set in the post-apocalyptic Rocky Mountains, a single father and two women venture from the safety of their homes to face monstrous creatures to save the life of a young boy who actually happens to be the main character's son, who has some sort of breathing disorder.
Yeah, asthmatic of some form, but
Yes,
ish.
and the reason they are leaving their homes is I've come to realize how bad some of these movie descriptions are. Is this home that they're living in is basically at the top of the mountains over the 8,000 elevation altitude, because there are these scary monster creatures that somehow have inhabited the earth. They killed 95% of the population in a month, and they have been living in fear at the top of a mountain for 3 years because somehow they've discovered that the creatures cannot pass the 8,000 feet mark.
Well, that's one way to deal with overpopulation.
Yeah, for sure. So Will
The
is...
price of housing would go way down.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. So Will is our main character, and his son is Hunter. And Hunter has run out of his last filters that he needs for his breathing treatment at night. And they need to go down into Boulder, past that 8,000 marker line, to go to the hospital to get some more filters for Hunter.
And let me tell you, if you have a breathing disorder, being at 8,000 feet, not exactly a good thing.
Yeah, indeed.
I always find it interesting because, again, I'm a football guy, and every once in a blue moon, you'll see something pop up whenever a team is traveling to Denver to play. Like somebody, because of some condition or something, can't play there because it's too high up. The elevation screws them.
Right.
So, and that's Denver. This is even higher than that.
Absolutely. And so there are these little pockets of little towns that have popped up on the top of mountains all around, and they're just surviving because if they leave that mark, they're basically going to be killed. And these creatures, they don't kill to survive. They're not killing you and eating you. They're just killing the humans, and they don't care about the horses or the cows or the buffalo or any other creatures. They just seek out humans and they kill them, and then they move on with their day. They don't sleep. They don't appear to eat, and they just kill because that's what they like to do.
Yeah, I feel like there's another movie coming on this one. I mean, they set it up at the end that, they were programmed to
Indeed.
kill.
Towards the end of the film, we find out that they are indeed
robotic.
Indeed, and that's why they don't eat. They don't need to, and that explains a lot. So the premise of our film is that Will needs to go into the hospital, travel there to get the filters for Hunter, and he winds up bringing two friends along with him, and they are on the adventure to try to survive even getting to the hospital in the first place. And that is Nina and Katie.
So I want to pull a what would you do already, because
Perfect.
So they all have to stay over 8,000 feet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to look stupid. 1902, 1901, in a little place called Kitty Hawk, a rather crudely made plane flew. It feels like they have a lot more information since then, and they have enough stuff that they probably could build some form of a flying machine. I mean, it's not going to be a 747, but if you needed to jump from mountaintop to mountaintop, you could probably put something together that would do that. Why the hell are they not?
You want them to make a plane?
I do want them to make a plane. I mean, if the problem is you need to get from point A to point B and do so without going under 8,000 feet, when normally on foot you would have to go.
Well, they still have to land wherever they're going. And one of the characters, Nina, actually happens to be a trained scientist.
Yeah, she's a physicist. Yeah.
And she thinks she can find a way to kill the creatures. And part of what they're going to do on their adventure is when they go to the hospital, they're also going to make a pit stop at Nina's lab because she has some theories about being able to kill them. So let's talk about the adventure here. So what would you do if you lived on top of this mountain and there was monsters? And I hear you saying you would build a plane.
I would build a plane. Well, I mean, again, it's just to be able to jump from basically little village to little village, because I have a feeling if you could do that, you would have a great quality of life
like
improvement.
A park hopper ticket at Disneyland?
Basically. I mean, I even was thinking about like zipline type things, but I think that would probably require too much construction under 8,000, so probably not.
Yeah. It's interesting when you have this creature who you don't see, but they are aware of your CO2, your breathing. And that is how they track you down, and they run real fast. And also, these monsters remind me very much of the monsters we've seen in a lot of other films this year. In Arcadia, I think it was, with Nicolas Cage, and A Quiet Place. And I know there was another one that we saw that had similar creatures.
Yeah, I feel like
Hollywood had a conference here and decided what creatures would look like, because they all kind of have the same feel this year.
that, or they all put the same prompt into Midjourney.
So if I were, let's say, if I were Will. So Will lost his wife about a year earlier when he went on an adventure with Nina, who, again, is our physicist who thought she could kill the creatures. And the wife died. So Will has some issues with Nina. And he reluctantly brings her along, and also a friend who was actually his wife's best friend. And she promptly dies halfway through the film, skewered by one of these creatures. And if I were in Will's shoes and I had to go and do this for my son, I understand how the more the merrier, and you need to get to where you're going and whatnot, but it's a death mission. Like, if I wouldn't be as casual about it as Katie was, Katie being the first casualty, and I guess the only casualty of the trip, but she was of the mentality that, hey, we've got to start fighting them eventually, why not today? And I gotta say, if they have pretty much proven to be infallible up to that point, and you have nothing that could slow them down or hurt them in any way, I don't know if that's the best attitude. I would not be as flippant as Katie was.
So I'm just going to say, because this would certainly put a damper in the whole movie. And this is probably an unpopular take. And maybe it is an unpopular take because I am not a parent. But Hunter, you're just going to die. But seriously, think about this.
No parent's going to do that.
I get that. But think about it this way. There's obviously something else, an injection, something, I don't know. But you're going on what is generally regarded as a suicide mission.
Right.
Now, if this were a no matter what happens to me, Hunter will end up with the things he needs.
Right.
That's a different scenario. But
you going out could ultimately.
You're going on like a 1% chance of survival. And if you die, Hunter's still dead.
That is true. And also the fact that when Will grabbed the filters that he needed, he grabbed a bunch, but it's still probably only a year's worth.
Yeah.
And you have that same problem. And Hunter is what, maybe 11 or something? Hunter's got all
8. I think he said 8.
8? Okay. So Hunter's going to be having this problem again and again and again. But we think towards the end of the movie that there might be hope, but then the credits roll, and then after the credits roll and half the people walk out, then we see a scene that shows them coming from the sky, even though they somehow crawled up from the earth the first time. So left open a lot for speculation. But regarding your what would you do in not going, I guess you could try and pay someone off to, hey, I need these filters, find someone who's up for the mission and find something that's of worth to them to bribe them with to go on that mission for you. Because you're right, you want to save your son, but you're also putting yourself at risk. And if you die, then no one's gonna, go through that same effort.
Yeah, but what can you truly offer someone in that scenario that's going to make them willing to risk their life? Like,
Well, it seemed like Kraft macaroni and cheese was kind of a big deal up there.
yeah, that did seem to have a much higher value in their society than ours.
Yeah, when you're living up in the mountains and don't have a supermarket near you, when someone finds a random box of Kraft macaroni and cheese, you definitely hit the jackpot. But yeah, you're right. It's who would be willing to do that? And I guess no one. And I guess that's why Will ultimately has to go on this mission on his own. But I don't know if I would have let Katie come along because
Well, I mean, it's kind of like Katie said.
I can't live up here the entire time.
Well, no, you're not going to. You can't stop me. Like, if I want to come along, I'm coming along. You're not going to stop me. You're not going to tie me up to keep me from going with you. If I want to go with you, I'm going to go with you.
Yeah, and I think Katie might have changed her mind at those final moments while she was being drugged down a mine by one of those creatures.
Yeah, after she became a human shish
kebab.
kebab.
Yeah, definitely not something I would want for most people.
No.
Some people, okay.
Yeah, no, that did not work out so well for her.
And also too, what would you do if this actually happens? So you're living your life, you're at work or you're at the park or you're at the mall, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. And we don't actually see what happened on that day. They just kind of allude to it happening. But the fact that you have to run for your life, you don't know what's happening, and you only know that you're in danger and you need to flee.
Yeah, because it's not like initially they knew about the 8,000 feet thing.
Absolutely not. And what do you do in those circumstances? Like, I actually like to have an emergency plan for things, and I don't have the plans at the moment that I've had in the past. And I don't like that. So that's something I personally want to address. But if there was all of a sudden chaos where there was buildings crumbling or, big thuds or, just
if
hell raining from the skies.
I actually have a plan just in case a bunch of large mechanical bugs burrow up from underneath the surface and
Perfect.
and start going after everyone.
Thank goodness.
You want me to tell you what the plan is? The plan is time to die.
I don't like that plan. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
I want to run and then probably have some sort of false sense of security that I'm safe, and then.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, you don't just sit there. You try to do something, but the truth is if it's something that wiped out 90%, 95% of the population, you don't have a plan. There's no plan. I mean, you get lucky.
I think I would be inclined to probably in a situation like that go low and not go high. Find sewers or subways or something like that if I was trying to hide.
Well, yeah, but if we figured out that they can hunt you and they came from the ground, I don't know if you want to get closer to their home.
Yeah, I guess you don't know, but you don't know that initially when you just know that there's chaos and you need to run away from something.
Yeah, I wonder if it was something where it was like there were remote beacons controlling them and their range was like 8,000 feet. And if they went beyond that, they just wouldn't work anymore.
I don't know. I think having a disaster plan is important, whether that's for earthquakes.
Oh, yeah, I
or
agree with
active
that.
shooters, and now obviously have to add one for mechanical alien creatures.
Let's also not forget political civil unrest.
That's true. Good luck out there, people.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.